Okay friends, we need a moment here. Look at that cheese. So this is homemade bread. We have an outrageous amount of garlicky, buttery, miso-y goodness in here and like cheese. So this is cheesy miso garlic bread. All right guys, so I know like skip ahead to the end and we have this amazing cheesy garlic bready kind of thing going on. But before we get there, we're gonna make like the easiest homemade bread in the whole world. Let's get going on the yeast part first of all. So very simple. I want some warm water and you need some yeast and then a little bit of honey here because yeast loves to eat sweet things. So we want to kind of kickstart our little yeasty mixture here with some honey. And we want to let the yeast kind of bloom and do its thing, like get alive again, because you know, yeast is alive. About 5 minutes, that's all you need. In the meantime, let's get our flour going. So I am using a high protein flour, which just means like head to the flour section, look for the flour that says baker's flour or bread flour, pizza flour, that's the one you want. The higher protein flour means that the gluten is stronger, you get like a better chew, better texture, and I want some salt in here too. Now, once your yeast mixture kind of looks a bit funky in there, like we've got like a little raft of things going on, some bubbles, then you can mix that in with your flour. So the great thing about this recipe is you don't need a fancy stand mixer and you don't even really have to do that much kneading. So now that things are well combined, but like still all kind of sticky and gooey, and this is the thing with this dough, right? You want to make sure it kind of keeps its gooiness for a lot of the time because adding too much flour, making it too firm when you're handling it is going to affect the kind of crustiness that we want at the end. This is quite a wet dough. So to make it easier to handle, because it is so wet, you need to add kind of like a lot of flour sprinkling. So get a bit of flour on the top here and then just kind of make sure that it's not sticking too much to the bottom of the bowl. So like flip it over, a little bit more flour. And this just means it's going to be easier for us to, you know, get it out of the bowl later. So just give it a shake, make sure it's nice and loose. Cover that and just set it aside for an hour. So at this point, this is what we're looking at. And if we did our job earlier and loosened that dough enough, it should come out. And what we want to do here is like kind of stretch and then knock it back a little bit. So we just kind of pull this up and over, up and over. See that top pattern on the top? That's going to kind of give us the cracks and the lovely kind of gorgeous looking loaf at the end. So that's the bit that needs to be on the top. So for this part, I know it's a bit confusing with all the flipping, but for this part, you want to flip it over again, get it into the bowl, make sure your bowl is well floured. And then cover that and another half an hour. So at this point, you want to crank your oven up really high, like 240 Celsius high. And you also want to prep your pot. So I have a cast iron pot here. It's great because it kind of holds a really high, even heat. But any oven-proof pot with a lid that you've got is totally cool. Again, just give this a bit of a shake. Just get that really nice and even in there. And then lid on. Now pop that into the oven for half an hour. Okay, so let's have a look at what's going on in the pot. Now at this point we have a bread loaf which is looking pretty good, I have to say. We haven't quite got the color yet. That's gonna come in this next bake. So put it back in the oven now for 15 minutes and then we're gonna have a really lovely, crusty, amazing piece of art, bread, whatever you like to call it. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, friends. Look at that crust, the color, and see that kind of pattern, the cracks that are happening on the top. That came from those lovely folds that we did way back when. I mean, so good. All right, let's get this out. And the thing that you also need to do here is just have a little listen. It's nice and hollow, and that means we have a beautifully cooked loaf on the inside. Very nice. So what we need to do now before we make our bread even more fancy and amazing is just let it cool down for a little bit on a wire rack, because we don't want it cooling down in like an enclosed area where it's going to get like all steamy and soggy and like not great. So leave it to cool down, and in the meantime we're going to make some buttery garlic yumminess. All right, butter first, unsalted, because I like to control the salt, so I don't need salt at the beginning here. And like the amount of butter should be fairly indecent. So, you know, we're making garlic buttery bread here. And now to kind of beef up the umami salty flavor here, I'm going in with some miso paste, because this is just gonna make everything totally extra, I promise. You won't regret it. Now some garlic. Obviously you could tailor this to how you like it. I like it kind of like pretty garlicky, so I'm gonna go in fairly aggressively here. Now some parsley. And just a little dash of salt. I mean, the miso is salty, but just a little bit extra is nice. And then just mix that through. Okay, so we've given our loaf time to cool down. Now I'm gonna just slice into this. And I want like maximum opportunity to get as much butter and cheese and all the things in there. So I'm going to do a square pattern here. And now you want to be slathering here like with reckless abandon. Lots, like too much. But it won't be too much, it'll be good. And now the cheese, I'm going in with some mozzarella because I love that sort of cheese pool that happens. Make sure you get really right in there. I want like every little nugget of this bread to have cheese, garlic, butter, all the things. Now back into the oven, like 10 minutes is all you need, or until everything is oozy and golden and amazing. Okay guys, I mean, check that out. That is like so amazing. Oh, literally, I'm happy already. Check out the color though. I mean, the crust on that bread is incredible, and we made it ourselves. Now just a little sprinkling of greenery will make everything even more better here. Let's get in here and have a look, shall we? My goodness. It's gonna be hot, isn't it? Presumably, because it just came out of the oven. Okay, don't try this at home because this is hot, right? So you kind of need like asbestos fingers, but that's okay because I burn my fingers all the time, so I'm all good. But pull off like a good little nug here. Okay, the smell of that garlic is incredible. Wow. I mean, so you've got this massive like buttery garlicky thing going on, but that cheese, incredible. And the texture of that bread, I mean, honestly guys, seriously, like the easiest loaf of bread that you can make at home. So good. Oh my God. It was really bad that such a big loaf. You could literally just eat the whole thing, honestly. So good. Cut. If you've got any comments or questions, pop them below. And if you enjoyed the video, why not hit that subscribe button plus the little bell one, and that way you'll get notified every time I release a new video. Thanks guys.